What's going on, guys? I'm Mike Pouncey, former center for the Miami Dolphins. I'm here with Coach Fred and my brother Marquise Pouncey, former center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let you guys know that Twin P is official liquor, the Common Man Podcast. Bottoms up, Twin P, best. Gotta drink some more. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mike Pouncey, former center for the Miami Dolphins. This is my brother Marquise Pouncey, former center for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
What's up, everyone?
This is our new cigar line. It's called Twin P. It also matches well with our bourbon whiskey. It's called Twin P as well. So if you like to smoke cigars and like to drink whiskey, I advise you get both.
What's up? What's up? What's up? It's the Common Man driving 5, shooting on location. Decided I'll get my Pat McAfee on with the guests we got today. Again, on location, so bear with me. I got my producer in the background, my partner, my co-host, but he's producing this one. So if anything happens to go wrong, he's gonna jump right in. So never fear. I got my guy Zach. Blue is here, but you know how we do every show just to ensure that we have a great show. We taste that Twin P. Here's to a great show. Sponsors of the show, again, we want to thank them. We have a QR code. We'll get that up. Make sure you tell them we sent you guys in the whole 9. And again, we're going to let some folks fall off in here, man. We got a great show today. We want to give off a lot of great information as it's pertained to HBCU football. My girl Tiff, what's up? Yeah, come on in. We got some stuff for you. A couple jewels coming in as well. We got my girl, Lady Lib of the sports world, sports agency world. She's going to come in and talk to us about that business, about what she's been up to here lately with all the buzz going on around the draft and what happened, just to give the common people the common knowledge of what goes on after the draft is completed and what happens. And from there, we have a guy that I call a HBCU historian coming on, Mr. Campbell, going to drop some knowledge. And we're going to have a great show, man. We're going to get in and we're going to get out. And we're going to make sure that everybody that's here, whether you're tuning in here, Twitter, Facebook, X, Facebook, IG, that you leave with some type of information that you can go back to the barbershop, the beauty salon, cafeteria, wherever, and say, nah, that ain't how that goes. Got it from here. Common Man told me about it, and that's what it is. If there's anything that you guys want to know, questions you want to ask, once we get the guest stuff in here, drop them in the section. I can't really see them, but I know B can get to them so he can kind of keep us up to date with whatever we need to get in front of. So just to make sure, again, when Lady Liv gets on, if you have anything, any questions, just let us know. If something happens to where I get cut off, who's going to jump in and save me? My guy. B, you in the background, eh?
Yep, I got you, man. If you want, I know Lady Liv's running a little bit late, man. We got Mr. Campbell in the back right now, man. We want to jump this thing off.
Man, let's go and get him in here. Let's see what happens. My God. We
Coach.
have, oh, hold on, man. I got to bring you in the proper way. We have FAMU. We have business owner. We have, who I say, HBCU historian. We have a giver who's donated to HBCU dance teams, causes crazy. A lot of the causes not even associated with FAMU. He's a carer and lover of all HBCUs. My guy, Mr. Campbell. What's happening?
Coach, listen, man. Hey, man, first of all, I did not know. I forgot it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so I should have had me a little something. I see that you got that Twin Peaks sponsor, you know what I mean? So I should have came prepared.
Yeah, man. That's how we start the show. We toast. We want to make sure we get good energy and spirits. Get it? I.e. spirits.
I like that. I like that.
Someone get it, Mr. Campbell. Some won't, man. Someone get it, some won't. How you doing?
Well, man, listen, I'm great, man. Listen, man, I love, first of all, love that you're able as a coach to, like you say, to give the real behind the scenes. Love what you and my nephew Blue do. Man, love that you're down at Alcorn. Like I said, again, one of my favorite schools. And man, just here to support, because like I tell people, this is for us by us. You know what I mean? And we need to tell our own stories. We need to be the ones that set the record straight. And we are the ones that need to move the conversation forward, So I really appreciate it. And then I'm super excited to listen to Rasheeda Liberty. Again, I follow her from a distance. Love what she's doing. I was in that business years ago, and I see, see what she's doing. And then, of course, Nicole Lynn and things like that. So, man, it's just amazing to see these women coming into this business and really, thriving.
And that was something else that I left off the bio. I'm sorry. Sports agency, marketing agent. And, what better transition to kind of get you into before we really dive into your story, before Rasheeda comes on, with the sports marketing agency. What was the number one overall job for you to do?
So basically what we had in the late 1990s and 2000, me and two other guys, HBCU alums, we put a sports agency together because I was already doing marketing and things like that. I had another friend that was a businessman, had another guy that was a top end lawyer. So, hey, man, you know how it is, Coach Fred. You go to school with, especially a person like yourself that play. A lot of guys we know they don't go on to play in the NFL. What do? They end up going into coaching. So I had classmates and friends all over the Southeast that were high school coaches. And when we started, and again, this is before the NIL and things like that, when we started reaching out, they were like, hey, Steve, I got a guy that played in Miami. I got a guy that played in Michigan. I got a guy that played at Ole Miss. I'll introduce you to his parents. I'm just like his father. So, man, we kind of started off like that. And we had a rule. We used to say 6 hours or your cousin. So basically, we couldn't drive 6 hours or it wasn't your cousin. We wasn't going to talk to you because we wanted to have that personal relationship and things like that. So we were able to have a number one pick, Jonathan Sutherland, that played at the University of Georgia. We had a lot of guys from the University of Georgia, several guys from Florida State, guys from FAMU, guys from University of Miami. So that was one of those things that, man, we were really excited. But then what happened, the business started changing and started becoming corporations. You start seeing these big agencies starting to merge. It wasn't the mom and pop operations and things like that. And, man, one of the funny stories I tell people is that when CAA came about, because CAA used to just represent, entertainers and movie stars. So they got in the sports business. And we were literally doing a presentation. And the guy said, hold on, I want y'all to hear something. So the guy from CAA, can't remember who the top agent said, he said, hey, what's going on, man? Coach Fred, well, how you doing? Oh, how you doing? Hey, I got a friend of mine I want you to talk to. It was Will Smith. Because CAA represented Will Smith at the time. And Will gets on there and says, hey, man, I know about you and blah, blah, blah. And when you come out here to LA, man, we shooting this movie and, come on the set and I wear your jersey. And right then and there, we said, this thing is about to change. Right then, this thing is about to change.
Yeah,
because
the money was getting on there.
So the money was getting crazy, man. But, the biggest thing what we tried to do is we wanted to look like the young men we represented. And I think that's what a lot of the parents liked about it. You know what I mean? Is that we had went to school, we had done what we were supposed to do. We knew how to come in there professional. And that was really our superpower, that we looked like the parents. And or with their parents, especially the mothers, they wanted their sons to look like. So, we were super excited about that, man. And, kind of got out of that business like in the mid 2000s and things like that. And then, just kind of, as we all do, find another interest.
Were y'all in the Ricky Williams sweepstakes?
Listen, the crazy thing, let me tell you what's funny. We were around that time, and now Master P, when I say he had the thing, because that's when No Limit was hot.
Every week.
I mean, when I say they were getting guys, they were getting, and I'm talking about they were representing basketball players, football players. But the one thing, and this is why I tell people, the guy was a tennis agent. And I think he represented Serena and Venus. So he had never done a football contract. And that was his downfall. So when he went in thinking like, and I'll use Serena now, you can do a deal when you know your guy is going to win. So you know what? If I'm going to win, instead of you paying me a set salary, if I'm going to win, pay me $500,000, pay me this. So what he did, his mistake was he didn't really know how to structure contract. So a lot of Ricky's money were in bonuses. Well, he's going to be the number one rusher. He's going to score 20 touchdowns and things like that. And that really, and then those white agents came in and said, see, oh, you don't want to go to those guys. They'll screw you up. And that totally destroyed that agency. But when I say those guys had it because they had the look, the feel, they were on the streets, No Limit was hot. So again, you see Lil Wayne and them were kind of doing it. And even with Clutch Sports, they're kind of doing the same thing, leveraging LeBron, Young Money leverages Lil Wayne and stuff like that. But if those guys had really got competent guys that really knew, and the bad thing about it was, I don't think a lot of people don't know this, there's no hidden contracts. Everything, when you're part of the NFLPA, you see everybody's contract. So basically it's cut and paste. So that's what this guy got it, you add a few much more. The real thing of being a good agent is, and I'm pretty sure Ms. Liberty will talk about that, is the personal service, the things that they need on the backside, moving, making sure child support is taken care of, making sure they're not getting wrong people in their circle and things like that, the personal service. Because the contract part, honestly, is not the hard part. It's the more the personal thing to take care of your players. Right,
because Ricky deal was really, really incentive-based. He had a base salary, and of course, some of those things in there, now that we hear the horror stories, was unattainable. Being that you gave away your whole draft, he was the only player you got. So you didn't have a whole lot of structure around what you needed him to be able to achieve to get that contract that they gave him. But as we kind of speed through it, when you get there, you're entitled. What years were you? And I don't want you to give me the exact years because I don't need nobody dating themselves. But what were your years on the Hill?
Okay. Oh no, ain't no problem, man. I was there from 88 to 93. No problem.
The good old days.
Yeah, man. I was there pre-internet. Or right, and going in, the thing about it, we laughed because there was no laptops until maybe our senior year, and only one or two people had them. Floppy disk, you know what I'm saying? And things like that. So, man, we didn't have to worry about, the revolution wasn't televised then. So we could do a lot of stuff without worrying about somebody having a phone in our face, which is unfortunate for these kids now because they do kid stuff, but they get caught with adult consequences, So,
ain't no doubt.
Absolutely.
Ain't no doubt. So you were up there during my time with my boy Chuck Duffy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Chuck from the crib. He's from the hometown. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good times there, man. But speaking of, as we move through with the HBCU sector, obviously from there to now, it's changed. What is the one noticeable change? I mean, the glaring noticeable change that you can put your finger on right now as we talk about it?
I came up in the golden era when I was able to see I'm talking about coaches that change offenses and defense. You got to understand something. People don't understand that West Coast offense was literally stolen from Archie Gunslinger Cooley. You'll still see it to this very day. I literally saw Minnesota run the Valley Stack. Okay. The Valley Stack was back in 1984. This is 2024. Think about that. 40 years later, an offensive concept is still being ran. So when you talk about the level of coaching, the coaching development, and the continuity, because that's, again, and coach, the more you coach, the better coach you usually become because you learn things, you understand things, you know how to deal with kids. And we were able to have these tremendous coaches that had these long tenures at these schools, the Marina Castles, the Pete Richards, the W.C. Gordons, things like that, the Billy Joes, of course, Eddie Robinson, and things like that. Houston Markham, again, just starting to think about, guys like that were able to build programs and that were there. So it was two things. They were very innovative, but they were also teachers because a lot of these guys' background, they were teachers by trade. Coaching was secondary for a lot of those guys, especially when they first started. So as you well know, the great thing about being a teacher, you know how to explain concepts. You know how to get a person from step 1 to step 2. So that's why I think you saw a lot of development. You saw a lot of guys, because back then there was no star rating, but you did have high school All-Americans, USA Today type things, parade All-Americans, And so you were able to see the coaches take guys, especially, you're looking at, again, a school like Alcorn and develop those guys, you know what I mean? And come out there and be first round or second round picks and things like that. Leslie Frazier and guys like that.
Yes.
And then, you look at Jack State, you look at Valley, you look at Southern, you look at what Grambling did. All these schools, look at Texas Southern with Michael Strahan, and things like that. So that developed. But now what has happened is the turnover that we have. You look at the SWAC when Dion came in. What's the only coach there now is Eddie Robinson. That's only been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
That's only been 4 years ago. And I say that, as they say, again, HBCU 2.0, when we brought a lot of eyeballs in, which, again, I love Dion for that. We brought a lot of people, a lot of energy. But the thing about it is we have not been able to have that continuity where we can build programs, where we can develop talent. And then, of course, with the portal, now when we are development, then we lose the guy, and things like that. So that's the biggest thing, the continuity, where you were able, when I was growing up, because like I told everybody, I literally, from Walter Payton on, I literally saw every great HBCU football player. And that's amazing to say, you know what I mean? And you're talking about in a top 20 list, that means I've seen probably from NFL, I've probably seen 8 of the top 20 NFL players in college.
Gold Jackets.
List,
Gold Jackets. Yeah. Gold Jackets. Yeah.
So when you start looking and you see these guys play, that's why I tell these guys now, and there's no disrespect to the talent. But I saw Jerry Rice play, and I saw him, and then you have Marino Castle that puts a guy, Isaac Hope from Alcorn, a legend, that said, you got this guy one-on-one. Okay. He's the only guy that's ever guarded Jerry Rice, which led him to be a second-round pick at the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
That is development. You think about this. And I saw him follow this guy all the way across the field, one of the most incredible football games. And again, still the most people ever in a stadium at Jackson Memorial between Mississippi Valley and Alcorn.
Oh, don't say that out loud. These new age folks will come for you. Don't say that out loud now.
Listen, man. Listen. They can come for me because the one thing, like I told them, my batters don't die. See, their attention span ain't long enough. So that's the thing about it. So again, I have no problem with the new fans, but there's something to say about when you're talking about guys on that level. Michael Strahan, Aeneas Williams. Again, you see these guys go and play to the level. So when I see guys and they say, hey, well, why are these guys not getting drafted? Well, you go look at those guys that got drafted. Those guys were 3-time All SWAC, 4-time All SWAC, All Americans. They had a resume that allowed them to go be great. So what are you doing to build that resume? So you can't come in and say, 1 year or 2 years. These are things that these guys built. And then as you see, go on to the NFL and have great careers.
Definitely. And, I say that jokingly, but I say that seriously because now they'll say that the number that was there for that game, they get that every week. But, me and that's not true. But anyway, so as we kind of get into it, and before we get Miss Liberty on, one of the biggest things for me coming from Florida, we didn't particularly know about the SWAC, but we knew MEAC football.
Yeah.
That's when the Florida Classic was in Tampa. And that was the place to be. Homecoming was the place to be in Tallahassee. Homecoming was the place to be for Cookman. I'm saying all those things to swing it to you. Even when we weren't able to go to those games, we had I shouldn't say late because he's still alive, but we had the great Charlie Neal to tell us about it every week. That's how I knew who Tavares Jackson was. That's how I knew anything about Alabama State, because it was almost like they were the only team that consistently played on that network. And I don't want to, and then if you got time to come back on after Miss Liberty, we can get into a little deeper.
I'm here, man. I'm here for the duration.
But the TV aspect of it, even though it wasn't ESPN, the BET part of it, that to me, that was huge. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's something that needs to come back in some form or fashion.
Well, I think you got to remember, too, this was before. I think what people don't really understand, the SWAC was the SEC before the SEC. And the SEC during that time was a really a regional conference. You know what I mean? Because during that time, it really was the Big Ten, you know what I mean? Or the Ohio State and Michigans and things like that. Now, Alabama was a power, but now when you see all these teams now, LSU is a big name and Georgia's a big name. But mostly it was just Alabama. And the rest of those schools were regional schools. So for us, during that time, there was an affinity, there was an understanding, and what you got to see actual NFL-type quality talent playing. So it was a big thing on, like you said, on BET, 7 o'clock at night, to see Charlie Neal, and you see these big-time games, and you see guys that a year later would get drafted and play in the NFL. But now, when you saw, and I always tell people, you can look, when the SEC took off, that's when, unfortunately, the SWAC went down. Right around that was 90s, when the SEC became the SEC. And really, it kind of stems right when they started the SEC championship game. Because that's when the money started flowing into the SEC. When they were forward thinking to start that, which I think might have been around 92, 91, somewhere around there. I think they started at 90, somewhere around there or whatever. But that was when you could start seeing the power dynamic starting to change and everything. And that's what it is. But no, you know, one thing I told people when I first got to Tallahassee and to coming from Jackson, where you were 35, 40, 45, 50, that was nothing. When Grambling, Southern rolled in town, Alcorn rolled into town. And again, you talking about players. And I saw the apathy, and it wasn't from FAMU, it was because of the way FAMU sat. They were so far away from the next school other than Bethune. And like I say, we played them down in, you know, Tampa and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, I had a bunch of my freshman class. I said, man, this ain't where this thing's supposed to be. I'm going to take you home with me. And they were just mind blown to see the 40,000 people at a Jack State homecoming. Just, they were like, what is this? I said, bro, I grew up with this. So, you know, that was the thing I always said, man, the happiest day of my life is when they said we were going to the SWAC. Because I always said FAMU should have been a SWAC 30 years ago. Because it has a SWAC nature about it because of where the football and things about that. And again, just where it's located. So no, I agree with you on that, is that being able to see that and with Charlie Neal. And the funny thing about it is, again, going back, my father, I was born in Washington, D.C. And when my mother passed away, she moved back to Jack. Charlie Neal and my father were on the same radio station in Washington, D.C. I saw Charlie Neal at the Celebration Bowl and showed him a picture, and he almost passed out. So that's how long I've known Charlie Neal, okay, and know who he was and how great a man he is. So, you know, when I see that, when you say Charlie Neal and the reference and that voice, you know, even to this very day. So that's why I'm even excited, you know, and I give, you know, again, no disrespect to ESPN, but HBCU Go's presentation is on a better level because they understand what they're doing with those games. I love when more HBCU Go, our teams.
I'm going to say this, and then we'll bring Lady Lib in, and we'll bring you back up. But HBCU Go, man, we gotta figure out how to fit them commercials in there, man. That game be so long, Mr. Campbell. I'm talking about we in a Thai TV timeout, man, about 20 minutes.
They trying to get their money, man. They got to pay their bills, brother. They got to pay their bills.
I get it. We just got to figure it out. But if you hang around, man, I want to get on this a little bit more. But I know Miss Rasheeda is coming up, and I know she had a tight schedule, being the busy super agent that she is, and that she is conveying to all the people in the business. We want to make sure that we stand and cheer, give a standing ovation for my girl, Lady Lib, lady in the business, black lady in the business, getting it done. One time for my girl, Lady Lib. Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Hey, how are you?
Doing good.
Good. I don't want to give the extended version, so I'll allow you to give the short resume of you and how you came about, and then we'll jump right in it and we'll get you out of here, because there's a lot of people that want to know a lot of things about what you're doing.
Okay. We started this work back in 2018. First draft class was the 2019 draft class. We still had that player who was active, spent 3 years in the NFL, and now is a vet on year 7 in the NFL, in the CFL. And so been doing this work. My very first intentional draft class I went after HBCU players. So I attended the very first HBCU Legacy Bowl, the very first HBCU Combine that was very cold and down in Alabama, right next to the Senior Bowl. Always have had a consistent player through the bowl, through the Combine event. We, out of the 4 years, we've had 2 MVPs. And out of those 4 years, we've had 3 that have went to the NFL. So more than that, I think, but 3 for sure. 3 for sure. 3 to 4. 3 of my 4 HBCU appearance guys made it to the NFL.
And like I said, the resume speaks for itself. A lot of people want to know, how does not only a lady, but how does a minority lady gravitate to the business and actually count to 3 and jump in and make it happen? How did you get to this point?
Yeah, so I've been a market finance executive for over close to 30 years. I know I look very young and cute and all, but I have a lot of corporate experience. So I had Fortune 100 experience with accounting degree, MBA, attended law school, went to HBCU. My goodness, I went to London Business School for CEO development and high power negotiations. So I've negotiated some of the brands that people are very familiar with. I always throw those out there. When you think of combos, you think of Snickers, you think of Pedigree dog food, Iams acquisition for Mars brands. I have built a lot of television spots, gave impact to packaging design, all kinds of things from the marketing lens. But I married a football coach. And so he always used to hear me on the phone negotiating, beating up people to get what I need done. And he said, you need to take that and translate it to these young men. And so from that point on, I took both the motherly side, the nurturing side of myself, but merged that to the business Barracuda side that I have to actually get things done for these young men. And so that kind of led me into this space. That's my story.
What year were you in the London Business School?
I was in London Business School in 2015. So
okay, I just missed you. Yeah, yep. I missed you. I was in there in 2014.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were a class apart.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was over there. I lost so much weight over there because all I could do was walk. And the food ain't ceased.
That's why I had to leave. That's why I was like, you know what? This ain't for me. Let me go and get into this coaching thing. That's why I had to leave. So you feel my pain. So, as we cut through it, and I know we got to get you out of here, want to get to the nuts and bolts of the business. And what better week? And I tried to get you on prior to, you were busy. And I was like, you know what? This worked out for the best because with what all went on in the draft, now I got to ask you from the agent's point of view, right? From the agent's point of view, and this is just your point of view, what do you think with said particular player that fell off the table? What initiated that? And I'll give you mine and then you go. So for me, I went to London Business School in 2014. You went 2015. 2014, they told us, if you want to do business in said arena, do not go and tell folks in said arena that I don't like you, you're cool, I don't like you, and then expect everybody in that arena to do business with you. Were they still teaching that in 2015? So your point of view.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, you have to, there's definitely some challenges there. So what I would say, because people have asked, right? Because I had the opportunity to be in those same spaces. And there's 4 great opportunities that I think were missed to really engage with the process. Number 1, when you go to the NFL Combine, you should work out.
Got to do work. Okay.
Got to do the work because I got to be able to see you. I got to know that you're engaging with the process. I got a lot of executives here that only see you on tape, maybe visited some of your games, but it'd be really good if they could see you up close and personal and know how you operate on that field. That's number 1.
That's number 1.
Number 2, when you go to the Shrine Bowl, that is a spot that is taken from a a player that really wants to showcase and wants to have that opportunity, you got to show up and perform in those bowl games. Understand if you don't want to necessarily play the whole game. I get it, right? I had a player who's injured in a bowl game, so I know the pain that has. But there's workouts all week. And there's an opportunity to do media row. There's an opportunity to interview with teams. It's kind of like a mini combine in these bowl games. So a bowl game is a very cherished opportunity. Number 3, you have to show up to your own pro day, but there is something called a Big 12 pro day in which you have another opportunity to dress out, perform, be tested, and really be with your peers and actually pitch the ball to some, well, I shouldn't say pitch the ball, but you actually have the ability to perform with your existing team members and then others who you are not necessarily common with to show that you can do it with anybody in the NFL. So Big 12 Pro Day, missed opportunity. Pro Day, huge opportunity to not test. You got to test. And so I think there's some things when I think about engagement with the process, when you look back and say, after you've done all you could, Stan, the question is, did you do all that you could to engage with the process as outlined for players who aspire to go to the National Football League?
And that's why when you made the point, I wanted to put my finger up so I wouldn't forget it. So from within Lady Liberty's business, and you're talking to all your clients, the engagement has to be at the top of the list, correct?
Mm-hmm. If you players, can I throw this out there? When we go to HBCU Legacy Bowl, I had a player, like I said, that was injured in the bowl. A lot of agents and people followed up with me, and my clients even like, should I perform? Should I go down there? And the number one question I asked them, are you a first round draft pick? If you're not a first round draft pick, you cannot afford not to be in your last game of your collegiate season, which is a bowl, and you cannot afford not to show up at a combine or showcase event. You don't have the ability to do that. And those who made choices not to do that, they're at home today. Okay, carry on.
So with all that, and we just talked about the engagement part, and then the other part that I think people forget in this process that player X didn't do, in my humble opinion, was something that I feel that, you hit on, because I've seen you at these places. I've seen you at the Combine, the HBCU Combine. I've seen you at the Legacy Bowl, and I've watched you work. You cannot alienate folks that are in these different logos, regardless of what position they're in, because I've seen you talk to everybody. That's how I met you. You saw my logo and you came up and you made it a point to speak to me, right? Hey, how you doing? I'm so-and-so. Even though my guy Blue had already pointed you out, you came to me before I could get to you. And I think when you talk about that, and we've had this issue with the Legacy Bowl, where kids come up and they don't want to do the combine, aspect of it, or they don't want to play in the game. And I'm kind of like you. I see both sides, but because you've been in it a year ago, the big blow up with your client, what are we saying behind the scenes to the executives, as much as you can tell us, about that process then and going forward? Because a lot of kids in their mind was like, oh, he was bona fide, and then that happened. So yeah, I'm not doing it. So what are you doing behind the scenes with that situation and leading up to other situations like that, where you have those bona fide guys that get invited to that game?
Yeah, I think freak accidents happen, right? And that was a really tough situation. And we worked through it. Still love. He's my forever QB1, right? Who's coaching now? So there is life after football. So, but I do believe when we represent players, we don't give them an option. You are going to perform, because we have that real conversation with them. I think there's a reality check that has to happen. Unfortunately, you get a lot of agents that don't have rapport with their clients like they should, to tell them, hey, you're not a first round draft pick. Like, I'm willing to have that conversation. Matter of fact, you're not a day one, you're not a day two. You're fighting to actually get to the league. You don't have a choice, right? And here are your gaps, and here's what they need to see. So we do a lot of that with our clients. Everybody knew. Good example, Herb Mulligan. He knew. He said, when I go to the Legacy Bowl, I know they're going to want to see me catch the ball, and they're going to want to see more special teams work on me. So he knew that going in, and that's what he demonstrated, right? So we coach our players on what we think the gaps are with the league. The other thing with the league is we work our guys. Honestly, I'm looking at 2026 right now. So to be completely transparent, even if they don't know I'm looking at them, we're already working on them, and we're already getting feedback from the teams. We're already getting the scout reports. I mean, it's fresh off the draft. So right now, scout reports and things like that are delayed, but we're already working ahead to say who's going to be our guy next year, right? Mm-hmm. Or our guys. In some cases, that work benefits us when they do show up to a bowl game, because our relationship with teams, I have teams that maybe call me sometimes to say, what player are you representing this time? Or you may need to go get this guy, or they'll help you, right? Because they know when she delivers a player to this team, they're going to be solid. And they'll also correct me when they say, that guy, you're taking a risk on him.
Okay. And one of your biggest check marks to me, and you may not see it that way, but you are a bad girl. You got a 5'10" defensive end, a pro contract. And
everybody says that.
And again, the kid could play, but the measurables, the tape measure didn't allow for to either get in the door, but you got him in the door, and you forever will be check mark, verified, however you want to put it, with your boy. Now, I don't know if that means anything to you, but you will forever be verified.
A lot of people say that. They're like, how did you do that? But it takes a lot of work.
But again, 5'10" at best, from Mississippi Valley, once maybe 8 games over a 4-year career, right? Mm-hmm. And you were able to navigate through it to the point to where they would listen to you, and they heard you, and you were able to do it. What got you in the door? Because there's a fine line between pushy, here she go calling again, annoying, or, all right, let me see what she got to say. There's a fine line. Mm-hmm. How did you find that line?
I think you have to know the team mystique, right? There are some teams. There are some teams that are going to always answer the phone for me. I don't care who it is, all the way up to their GM. They'll answer the phone. I have successfully negotiated with 25 of the 32, now 26 of the 32 teams in the NFL. So that's a lot of relationship. That's a lot of currency. The other 6 is not that I haven't have connections with them. It's just that we haven't been able to match the player to what they like. I'm still trying to figure out what is it about certain players.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because with said fallout, no one was listening to me when I tried to make the point that out of 32 teams, not all 32 needed a starter. Not all 32 needed a backup.
No, they don't need to invest like that.
Which shrunk it from 32 to about 15. And then you told how many ever. So it went from 15 to 5-ish.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think people really understand that I can be the best receiver in the country. Mm-hmm. But if the first 10 picks of the draft don't need a receiver, guess what I'm not doing? I'm not getting picked.
Not going.
Not getting picked.
Yeah, it's something we do is we show our players, we do a lot of pre-draft analytics with them. So we show them the velocity of usually the 3-year average, 4-year average of what happens in the draft with their position at their size, their scale, what happens? So it's pretty like we can go through and say, based on even your size and combination, your testing, someone who was your exact match, only 6% got drafted in the first round or day one, 10% in day two. So what does that tell me? 85% of them are, like 6, or not even 6, but 5, 10, 85% of them are drafted or signed day three. Your position is only drafted in the last year, they've only drafted 16 of you. Your average tenure in the league is X. So this is why you're not going to get selected for get drafted. So we're very clear in kind of the not one of our players will ever say I was surprised. I was sitting around looking at the TV hoping that I would get picked. If you were sitting on day three staring at the TV thinking that you could be picked, your agent did a completely horrible job in managing expectations. It's not even
tough to do. Is that tough to do? Because the coaching side of it is tough to do because all of them are the next best thing. And they don't want to hear good old Coach Fred when good old Coach Fred tells them it's nothing wrong with having a solid college career. Now, here's how you can stay involved in the league other than being a player. Oh, Coach Fred hating. Coach Fred is hating on me. So how do you get those expectations across to them? How do you do that?
Facts. And so I have a real detailed fact sheet. And people sometimes they have to eat it because that's just what we have to do, right? So some of the questions I asked: were you named an All-American? How many years? Did you get postseason honors? Were you the captain of the team or the leader in the room? Were you the most productive player for the season? Did your team have a winning record? Schools that don't have winning records don't have a lot of draft picks. It doesn't go. Because if they were that good, they would be winning. Did all 32 teams come see you? Did your play warrant a combine invite? Is your height, weight comparable to those drafted in the top 100 over the last 3 years for your position? So you can play well, you be fast and all that, run a good 40, but if you're 5'6", you ain't going to the league. It's not happening, right? Is your RAS score greater than 8.5? What would your coaches say about your character, the way you show up? Do you have good rapport? Did you get invited to a group? Huh?
RAD score. What's that?
Your RAD score, relative athletic score. So if you have a relative athletic score of an 8.5 or better, that's usually after pro day testing. They can put it in a schedule, right? And they show you based on your height, weight, combination, your broad jump, vertical, agility, etc. You get a relative athletic score. If your relative athletic score is below 8.5, you already are in trouble. You need to be 8.5 plus. So if you go through just that list, you start to get real humble because you can't answer yes or no. Like it's like, no, I'm not the team captain. No, I got some character issues. And I am a little short. I didn't have the best season. I don't think I've seen any scouts up here talking to me or asking about me. You put the story together. You not that dude, right? So let's stop it. But what we can do is find out where you are. And before we sign a guy, we have a detailed scout conversation beforehand. I tell them who they are. Now, some players, they walk away. Their parents think, I didn't like what she said. I promise you, today they are at home looking at the TV, or they may be signed and about to lose their job this weekend.
So, and you are such a great interviewee because you're setting it up for me. Like, you're setting it up for me. This is like batting practice this weekend. And we're not going to talk real specifics, but for my conference, you represented two guys. One, which is with my Commanders. That's my favorite team. I also recruited him. And the other one, I'm not sure where the running back with the Giants. Now, They're on two different planes. Can you
Yes.
explain those two different planes?
Yes. Yes. So there's 4 ways that I look at you entering the league. Number one, you're drafted. A top 100 draft pick is a lot different than a late round draft pick. So that's those. I look at those as two separate things. If you're drafted in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you are fighting for your life. You are fighting for your life. So you don't get the big head, because the highly likely not to exist. So 18 to 32 teams cut their draft picks last year, and most of them were 5th, 6th, 7th round. So just it's up. So top 100 safe. Bottom of the draft, on the bubble, signed, or PFA, priority free agent, and then the 4th category in my mind is rookie minicamp invite. Okay. So let's start from rookie minicamp invite. Rookie minicamp invite happens when a player, usually their position has been drafted by that team. The teams really aren't sure if they have a need. They may have a guy that played practice roster or was injured last year, in which you have to come out and show them that you may be better than him. If they sign you from that invite, they usually are going to be in the process of releasing someone else. So they're either going to release that signed guy, they're going to release that late round guy, or they're going to release someone who's still on their roster that's kind of like a free agent practice roster player. They upgrade talent with rookie minicamp invites. It's a tough place to be in. Only 21% of rookie minicamp invites get signed. So that means 80% of them will go home this weekend. And it's a mix, because some of those rookie minicamp, in addition, there will be a large group of players who were signed after the draft who will also go home this weekend, because those that 20% that comes in took their jobs. So that's kind of how that works. A signed player, or what I call a PFA, is probably it is the busiest time of an agent's life on day 3, day 2, and day 1, because the teams are calling, letting you know, we love them. We got love for them. We got love for them. We're not going to draft them, or we may draft them. But whenever I hear may draft them, he's on our board, he's on there late, he's right away, we calculate PFA. And so you have to establish what your client is worth. And when the teams start to call with those offers, you start the negotiation. So we establish a worth, and we say, we're not going to sell them to you for less. That's basically what it comes down to. And it gets real vicious. It gets very aggressive. Some teams opt out and say, I can't, I'm good, we going on this way. But I would tell you, with said player that went to the Commanders, Robert McDaniel, it was a fight until the end. And it wasn't a fight. They were battling. One team would hang up, the other team would call, and this one would text. I mean, they were battling. It got so aggressive in their draft rooms that they were like, we got to draft them. Like, I'm hearing the conversation. It got me on the phone, right? We're going to have to draft them. They're going to try to take them, that kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, y'all going to have to draft them. Yep. Here they go again. I'll call you back, So we played a game a little bit too. And I would venture to say, I haven't checked all of the files, but the last time I checked, Robert McDaniel, out of all the HBCU players signed, had the highest sign-on bonus and the highest guarantee. So he went for a lot because those teams kept pushing those amounts up and fighting for him. They really wanted Rob. That tells us that Rob could have been a drafted player.
So let me ask you this with that 2-part question. So the guarantee, and let's just say for me, the guarantee he signed on for was $50. He's going to get that. The contract was 3 years for $150 a year. Mm-hmm. He doesn't make it out of preseason. Mm-hmm. Out of the 3 years that was guaranteed for $150, only a portion of that is given to him on said release date, correct?
Right. Okay. So what happens in this situation is three components. Number one, you have a sign-on bonus. That sign-on bonus, as soon as you pass your physical, they run that through payroll. That's the real money.
As soon
That's
as you put your
real
name on the
money.
line. As soon as you put your name on the line.
As soon as you put your name on your line and pass that physical, they're going to run it through the payroll system. You're going to get your sign-on bonus. Some teams pay their sign-on bonuses a little later, but long story short, they get it in the system. That is your money in your hand no matter what. So that's real quote unquote guaranteed money. Teams only get less than $200,000 to work with for those sign-on bonuses.
Okay.
They have to cover sign-on bonus, your travel, hotel accommodations, they have to cover all of that with that little bucket.
That's for everybody.
That's for everybody
that they bring in.
So they don't have a lot of money. So anytime you negotiate a heavy sign-on bonus, that's an indicator they want him, right? Because they're giving a big portion of that little pot that they have towards his sign-on bonus. And so I appreciate that, but I want it too, right? So we get the sign-on bonus. The guarantee, what the guarantee means is I never want to see that guarantee in my life. I don't ever want to see them get that guarantee. Because what that guarantee means is at the end of the football year and they haven't been active on a roster, they get paid that amount. That's not a good place to be. If they sign a practice roster contract, they're going to get it. They're going to get the practice roster contract. They're not going to, that money goes away, whether if they sign and if they're with a team. So if they don't make it through preseason, they usually have to wait the whole length of the NFL year and then they get the guarantee.
Okay.
Now, the third component is their contract. If you're signed onto the practice roster, your contract is gone. So that contract you signed after the draft is gone. You're a practice roster contract now. And if they elevate you, they can elevate you according to the practice roster contract terms, which gets you to the minimum salary. This year is $840,000. So you would make that divided over the 18 games or whatever. It comes out to $50K. I think $50,000 for showing up, look good on me. You know what I'm saying? So if they're elevated 3 times, then you start negotiating them full back money to the contract that they got.
Yeah,
and
full money.
That gets them the guarantee. That gets them back the money. Yeah.
So before we let Lady Liberty out of here, if there's any questions, man, put them in the chat. My producer will deem what's necessary to put up for her, and we'll chat about it there. But what I want to ask you, and I need you to be, and you've been nothing but that with me ever since we've talked from day one. For my conference, right here, right now, I need you to be as honest and as transparent as you can be, because there's a lot being pointed back to us as staffs, us as a system, us as the conference, just us in general as to why our Robert McDaniels, our Jarvion Howards, our Ronnie Bells, why those guys aren't getting their name called. If as best as you can, as transparent as you can, I've told them why, and nobody wants to hear me because I'm just a coach from Alcorn and I'm just a hater. But as I've told them, why spend the pick on Robert when I can get Robert the minute the draft is closed out for a little cheaper? But I can get Robert, I can get Jarvion, and I can get Ronnie Bell all in one swoop with the money you just said, as to where I can go and get Mr. Campbell with that last draft pick from Alabama, and maybe it happens, maybe it don't, but I got 3 for the price of 1, so to speak. From your perspective, from your business, let them in behind the curtain on how that happens. And I'm gonna step back.
Yeah, this is tough. This is a tough one, but I will say, and people do not like to hear this, but I want to say there are a lot of programs. So let's say there's 440 programs. Some of those are FBS, some of those are FCS. When you look at the percentage of schools that HBCUs comprise, mathematically, you're only going to have 1 to 3 draft picks max. you're not going to see a time, and I shouldn't say we're not going to see a time because it depends on how our players interact with this portal, right? If they stay there, put and take care of the business at home and develop where they're at instead of jumping in the portal and going to let someone else take the glory for the development that happened at HBCU. Then you would see more getting drafted from there, but they hop, right? They hop for money, short-term money. But I will say, if
say that again.
if you stay and develop, I still think mathematically you're only going to get 1 to 3 because the conferences are just small. It's not because it's bad players. It's just that the conferences are small. The other thing is, and I hate to say this, but I'm just going to put it out there. It's a systemic issue. And the systemic issue is this. You can go down the street. If I have a player from Ole Miss, I have a player from Mississippi State, or Southern Miss, whatever. If I have a player from there and I ask them, how many teams have come to see you? All 32. How many times did they come? 3 times. I go right down the street to Jackson State and ask, how many teams have come see you? Oh, about 5. How many times have been there? Once. That's a systemic issue. That's saying that I'm not willing to invest the same amount of time in a school that is literally miles down the street. I'm spending all my time here. I'm sending my scouts there 3 times a year, but I'm not paying attention to these over here who are right down the street. That's a problem. There are also teams that write up all their starters. Every FBS starter is written up by a host of teams. It's a standard policy. My question is, why aren't starters written up from the FCS schools? Why? It's because what you're doing is you're automatically setting up you're stacking the deck differently. These FBS players are getting all the attention because that's where you're sending your scouts. That's where you're dedicating the money. Now, on the other side of the coin, with our HBCUs, God bless them, you have to curate an experience for an NFL team because NFL teams talk. And they'll say, I go to the school, I have no place to sit. I go look for their film. I don't have anybody to walk me. They don't have the quality film I need.
They come to Alcorn.
They don't set up a meeting with me to go through their players like I can get from the FBS schools. They don't have a package on each of their players that gives me the details. Yeah, he's good. He comes to practice on time. They said the commentary is very general. Where you're getting more of the pro liaisons at some of these other schools, they have a very detailed scouting report drafted for every single one of their players, a list of all injuries, their medical records, their school information. They have a packet, they have a system of what they provide to the NFL teams. So right away, they already got the story on those players. They didn't get some general comment from the coach on the sideline. They got a package that they put together on every single one of their players. All the awards he has, the academic honors, great things he's done, commentaries from the cooks, commentaries from his coaching staff. They sell their players properly to the NFL. Their NFL liaisons also have NFL front office experience because they know that's how they know what they want. But I've had NFL teams call me and say, I don't even have film on this school. They haven't even uploaded in the system. How in the world can an NFL team take a true assessment of my HBCU talent if I don't even have film in the system for the NFL? Do you see what I mean? Like those are, so I think it goes both, it's both sides now. It's both sides. It's both sides.
Definitely.
And I've had the ability to look at this as a parent. You know, my son is going through the recruitment process and he's been at FBS schools. He's been at FCS schools. He's been at HBCUs. And I would tell you, the experiences are like, whoa. Like and if that is the experience parents receive sending their children, I can only imagine what the experience is when the NFL shows up. That's why they're not coming. Part of why they're not coming.
Well, we talked about that when me and you talked. Just so happened that we had a weather deal on our deal, but that's neither here nor there. So we're gonna run that back. We're gonna run that back.
I still love you, Coach. I still love you.
We're gonna run that back. We're gonna run that back. But as far as when the NFL comes, and I'm the guy, I'm the guy they come see. I try to do all those things you talked about. Now I took the note because I don't have the packet, but I have the roster because I'm just like recruiting. When I was in junior college as a coach and the 4-year schools come through, I'm not going to BS you. If he can't play for you, coach, I don't know who gave you that name, but he can't play for you, coach. Now you can look at him. You can look at him, but he
Yeah.
can't play for you.
Yeah.
And I run it down that way with them. They have full access. They have full access to the film. I do upload it in the system within the NFL system. I can't remember the name of it, but the game goes in there every Monday. We upload our games.
Or something like Catapult.
Catapult. Yeah. So we upload it in there every Monday. When they come, they'll tell you. You can ask any of those guys, those regional guys that come through. When they come through Alcorn, Coach Fred gonna set it up. Now we gonna, depending on what day they come, we're gonna go have a great time in the cafeteria. I'm gonna let you talk to every. Matter of fact, we're gonna go find people for you to talk to about a Jarvion Howard, so you can get the real. Because I don't want you to feel like when you show up there with me that I'm selling you something.
Yeah.
No, I'm giving you the real. But hey, here's the trainer. Here's the strength coach. Hey, here's his academic advisor. Here's the dorm RA. Coach, you ain't got to take me to the dorm. Yeah, I do. Yeah, yes, I do. I got to make sure.
Yeah.
So I feel you on all those things. And then I think sometimes people try to give us the deal because of where we said that, Alcorn is a little off the beaten path. But
it's beautiful campus. Beautiful.
I've had guys stop through there on their way to LSU. Coach, I might as well stop through. Baton Rouge is right down the road. Going to ULM. Yeah, going to ULM. Coach, I just dropped in. Heard you got a stud of a running back. Want to, check him out. Boom. Hey, cool. Thank you for coming through. And it's gotten better since 2016 when Coach McNair, who I'll always be thankful for, gave me that duty. I don't know if he gave it to me because he felt like I was the best for it, or he gave it to me because he didn't want to deal with it. But either way, that's kind of how it went. And I think we have to also have our fans, our alumni base, be realistic in what that world that you deal in is.
Yeah.
Because, like you went through, there's measurables. If Rob is not 6'2", if Rob is my height, 5'11", this may be it's a different conversation. You know what I mean? And I think I appreciate you for hitting that, because we take a lot of flack from the fan base because we're not using Rob right. We ain't putting him in position for the NFL to see. Nah, when they come see Rob, then they'll understand. Okay,
how to use them right. The coaching staff is not at fault for how whether a player is draftable. I would never say that. I would never say that. Now, the same way they're not, I would say some of the coaching, their coaching and how they develop, absolutely. But but the NFL knows that these are college players, and they know they're developmental players sometimes. Developmental players, late round, PFA, right? So the coaching staff should not be taking slack from, hey, why don't you have more guys? It's not the coaching staff. I just think that you're going to have talent rise every once in a while, and it's not necessarily always going to be every year. And I would say the coaching staff needs to retain the talent that they have and be very clear on retaining that talent. And some schools don't solve it all by transfer portal. I admire the schools that say we ain't fooling with transfer portal. You know why? Because I develop talent. I don't need to go buy talent. Now there's some FBS schools, and y'all know who they are. They're like, I ain't fooling with no transfer portal because I'm a coach. There's some schools that live by the transfer portal. My question is, can you develop talent? But that's not here nor there.
That's another show. I got to get you back. No. I got to get you back. That's another show, because I'm kind of like you in a sense, because to me, at the end of the day, we've got to have more parents like yourself, but we got to have more conversations, because you said something early on that I think is being lost in this. We're losing a lot of kids to short-term money.
Yes.
And you know what that is.
Yes.
Others may not know, but we get a kid all the way to his senior year. He's got 6 months, and he's put himself in position. He's made all conference. He's made the All-American list. and he's going to go to Toledo for off-campus housing and $2,000 a month for the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Never to be heard from again.
Mm-hmm.
And said kid calls back to good old Coach Fred. Do you think you can get me in the Legacy Bowl? I mean, I did graduate from Alcorn. I'm just in the my 5th year. That's not how that works. You know what I mean?
No,
But
no.
we've had those conversations. We've had those phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Kids leave for short-term money, and I think more people need to hear it put that way. The way that you put it.
Be a
And
backup
then the
plan.
other part
Be
of
an
it.
insurance
Yeah.
plan for a FBS school. You just an insurance plan. You're gonna sit on the bench behind a guy that they really love, that they recruited from day one. But it's okay. Go on and sit on that bench for a year and be an insurance plan.
You got 4 months to learn the playbook. You got 4 months to learn the coaches to learn you. You got 4 months to understand everything about that university, and you can do it. You can do it. If you're trying to be the same player you were when you left, said Alcorn, wherever.
Yes.
Blue, before we let her out here, was there any viable questions we need to get to her? Mr. Campbell, do you have any questions for her before we let Lady Liberty? Oh, and the other thing, I don't think they really understand, because I hit it to a couple kids a couple years back when you called me about some kids that we had. I won't say their names. And I saw one of my guys in the comment who went over there and made a career. I went over there and got my start professionally. The CFL is not bad. That's professional football.
No, the CFL is professional football. I put 7 guys in the CFL last year, and I think they feel like if they go to, first of all, I told you about my vet at the top of the call. My vet that's draft class 2019, he makes more than a NFL practice roster right now. He's a vet in the CFL. He ain't never coming back to the NFL. He ain't never coming back. He ain't never coming back. Number one, he don't want to look over his shoulder every 5 minutes. There's a draft class that he's a star up there. He's a star up there. And so
Ain't but so many of us up there. Ain't but so many Americans up there.
It's only so many Americans, but I tell you, that team though, if you look at go look at the CFL roster and you'll be like, oh yeah, y'all deep up there. So you deep up there on the roster, and they love skilled players. They like 6 foot plus DBs. I will say that they don't really take a lot of tackles from the US. I haven't really seen that many be successful up there, but yeah, the CFL is a great opportunity. It's better than sitting at home thinking you're gonna get a call from a professional team sitting on your mama's couch. Go play football.
And when I took it, I wish I would have had you, because back then, I'm not gonna say when, but back then you had the choice of doing your contract in Canadian money or American money, and then you didn't understand, coming from Florida, you didn't understand the tax that when you transfer your money back, that the tax, okay, yeah, I walk up, I'm leaving with $100, but once I transfer it over, the tax off that $100, what you mean? You only got 40. I gave you 100.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
yes.
again,
My guys banked a lot of their money. When they're up there, they don't spend a lot of money because we negotiate a housing for them. We negotiate all that for them. So, we negotiate some great CFL contracts. I have relationships with all of them.
Right. So, Mr. Campbell, you have any questions for Lady Liv before we let her out of here?
Well, I'm just going to say, unfortunately, nothing has changed on the HBCU side. And I know, Miss Liberty, I'll tell you this. It was a young man down in Texas. I know I'm out the game, and I said, hey, I know he reached out to you. I don't know what happened or anything like that, but I said, if you want to get somebody that is on that level that can nurture you, and I know his aunt called me and said, I think they reached out to you, so hopefully whatever. I can't think of the young man's name, but he's out in Texas, and I know they reach out to you, but everything that you said was true. And the one thing I just got to repeat, it reminds me, Coach, and I'm going to show you something what's crazy in what you was talking about. We used to have like these, I don't know if you can see it, these game cartridges, right? And what we would have to do with our players, to her point, we would literally put their whole bio on CDs, because this one was CDs. And so what we did, we had the NCAA, I had a graphic guy. And so when the agents, like what she's saying, we would go around with the pro days because they wouldn't have it, right? So we would have it all in this package. So when he's on the plane, he could watch it on the plane. So it would have, his cut up tape from the school, or we had to get it, his bio, his medical, his grades, his interview. He would say, hey, my name is Stephen Campbell. I'm defensive back, 5'11", 170. I run a 4.55, and here's why you should draft me. Literally, we would have to do that because they didn't even have it. They didn't
Put that on the website.
Yeah.
If nothing else, put it on the website because, woo, God, put the interview on the
all
website.
That she's saying is true. And then another thing too that I just want to reiterate: it's about telling people the truth. Because the worst thing, and Ms. Libby, you know this, a lot of parents think their son is better than what they are. And there's nothing wrong that you think is great, but this is a business. So I'd rather they say, tell me my limitations than my strengths, because my limitations would get me killed, right? So for my thing is, I like the fact that what she said was, let me tell you. Now, one thing that we always did, and we had our own war room. We had all 32 teams. We had their depth charts. So like what she's kind of talking about, so like case in point, I'm looking at Herb Mulligan, right? Somebody called me from Jackson. I said, I like that because I'm looking at a guy that only had 30 carries. That's ahead, on the 1, 2, 3. I believe Herb can beat that. And I'm sorry, I'm not talking for you. I'm talking about what I looked at.
That's exactly what we do.
Exactly. He only had 30 carries, right? So that's the thing that we start fighting for. So I'm looking at depth charts on all the schools. So like what she said when they call, I'm looking like she said, that fourth guy ain't going nowhere because he's from that. So we're not going to send him there.
Yep.
And
the teams will tell you as an agent, they would say, this guy is soft. Your guy can beat him. And that's all they need to tell me. Or we don't want to keep him past this year. They'll be very honest with you.
And I'll tell you a real quick story just to piggyback on hers, is that we had Terrence Edwards, who was the all-time leading receiver for the SEC at University of Georgia. His brother was Robert Edwards. And we represented Terrence. Now, Hines Ward was at Pittsburgh. And now, that's when Pittsburgh had all these receivers. He said, oh, come on, I'm going to take care of him. We looked at the Atlanta Falcons depth chart, and they had a little white receiver named Tim Dwight.
From Iowa. Tim Dwight from Iowa.
Exactly. He was their punt return. And we looked at it and we said, listen, Terrence is from Georgia and Atlanta. If all things are even, he should be able to beat this guy out. And Terrence made that spot and they cut him.
That's right.
Those are things. So I'm just saying this to back up. If anybody has a son, and it's about levels, and again, you can go to the big A, they're not going to call you back. So you can get Drew Rosenhaus and everything. Drew, you're never going to talk to Drew. You need to talk to your agent.
Drew is only talking to a draft pick.
And thank you. And like I said, and even them, he doesn't talk to because there's 3 or 4 of those guys along there. Because
he's really good at what he does. I watch him in action. He's really good at what he does. But you're right. He'll sell you in.
Yeah.
But he's gonna put other people to take care of you.
Yeah. So for this level, you need somebody that's going to work the phones, that's going to tell you and things like that. So that's why I'm saying I'm so proud of what you're doing. Like I say, and again, as you know, it just takes that one. It just takes that one. And we do have some players. I'm super excited. Again, I saw the thing with the depth chart. Where I looked at all that because I was super excited where some of these guys were going. So you've got those guys in the right position for them to be successful.
Thank you. Yeah, I told them I can get you there. You're gonna have to deliver it though.
And Miss Liberty, meet Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell, meet Miss Liberty. Mr. Campbell is all things HBCU. He worked in the same business back in the Gap, and now you're in the business. We just wanted to combine the conversation because in our deal, my podcast is we're centered around HBCU football, but I want to make sure that it's realistic football. That it's realistic expectations. Mr. Campbell don't play with them. He tells them what they don't want to hear. You are in the business. They need to hear what happened last week, how this works, and what goes on from now. Because Friday, if I'm not mistaken, most teams kick off their rookie practices, their rookie OTAs.
The 22 this week. They're flying out tomorrow morning. Most of them, and 6 already had theirs, and I think the Cardinals, the Cowboys, and the Rams do a private. They don't really bring invites in. So yeah, it's a tough window. Can I say this?
4 days
with Mr. Campbell. When I got trained in the business and kind of I worked with Chris Cabot, who's Pat Mahomes' agent. And he told me, he said, one thing I'm going to tell you. He said, you save yourself a lot of time by not lying. He said, if I can give you any piece of advice in this business or agency, don't lie. Because that is where a lot of agents have my box is full of guys. When I say full, I'm talking my DMs are popping. And it ain't because I posted a picture. It's because they're like, help me. I see you got this. I don't have this. My friend. I got to fire my agent, and I go back to those questions. Oh God, here we go. The firing the agent time frame. This is the firing the agent time frame. My agent didn't do anything. I look at you, and you ran a 5. Okay, your agent only got so much to work with, boo. So it may be over. We may need to think of something else. And so I think saving ourselves a lot of time by not lying is the art of this business. And then, agency is taking care of the player. Taking care of him is also helping him get on with his life when it's not going to work.
And that's one thing I would think when the University of Miami was at its height in the early 2000s, and we had a lot of guys, and we talked to all those guys, all those high first rounders. And the most disappointing thing is when they got signed, because that was when that under the table money was there. You know what I mean? And you know this. A lot of guys you just can't, because these agents would just pay the guys. You know what I mean? Like, come sign with me, I'm going to give you $100,000. And then they find out they're in debt and things like. And there was nothing worse when I would get a phone call and a guy a year in said, man, I should have signed with y'all. I ain't heard from this guy no more.
Oh,
that you said, and I'm like, you already signed the contract, bro.
All day.
You can't even make any money off of you.
All day. Full inbox just full.
So,
all day.
So when you say that, it resonated
right
because even to this day, because now those guys retired, and they would say, my parent told me that they should have went with you, but everything's glitter is not gold. That's why I tell people, you got to deal with people that are honest with you, that are going to tell you the truth. And I'm going to say this. Again, I hope you have 100 players. I hope you have 200 players. But with that being said, if she's got 100, make sure she's got 100 phones to be able to call you. Because if she can't call you, she's not representing you.
That's
and
right.
I say you as in literal, but that's what I would tell these guys. When you get to your point, you would have guys that are below the 3rd round, but I'm going to sign with this guy because he has a name. He's not going to represent you. He's not going to be at your pro day. He's not going to pay for you to work out.
Nope.
You're just signing with his name. You're actually doing him a favor because you're just coming on.
Yeah.
So
and we invest. We invest. So when you think of like a Rob McDaniel, when people are like, well, he tested well. Now, Rob is an athlete anyway, right? But you got to learn the skills and things like that. A lot of guys wouldn't have took Rob out of Jackson, Mississippi and said, you're going to this facility with these draftable players and you're going to perform and we're going to invest in your nutrition. I'm going to house you in a skyrise. I'm going to do this. You know, he had all of that. And we pay them, right? And I don't not pay them, but we subsidize them.
Subsidize, right.
But a lot of agents have good intentions, but they're not putting no money in you.
Yeah.
Let me get right. Let me get right.
So, I think like I said, that's why I'm saying your success is just on the horizon. Because, like I say, everything, that's why I was just sitting here listening to it. And so, and I know how tough this business. Like I told Coach Fred, when we were coming, that's when it was a lot of consolidation and things like that. The CAs and SFXs were all coming in and things like that. So now it's kind of I think there's an opportunity again because now you got so many players that are falling through the cracks and things like that now. So again, I just think that again, to your point, what I really hope to make your job easier to the Coach Fred is to develop our guys. So then when you get them, we have something to work with. That's the most important.
Yes.
That's
Come get developed.
Come get developed. Blue, and don't brush off the sisters that reach out to you. If I inbox you and say, hey, we interested, you may want to pay attention.
Let's talk. She got a 5'10". She got a 5'10" D lineman, a pro contract. You might want to call her back. She verified.
Oh my God.
Verified. We got any questions for her before we let her out of here, B?
No questions from the chat right now, man. Just a bunch of praise. Shout out to Coach Quinn in the chat, shouting her out.
Oh, Quinn.
Coach Quinn, what up?
Coach Quinn.
Appreciate you listening, brother. And then, my last thing to you, Lady Liberty, before we go, you have you dabbled into what we call the NIL agency at all?
Yeah, so I get a lot of NIL agents trying to feed me their clients, right?
Okay.
And they try to feed you their clients for a fee.
Oh,
and so they're selling these guys to us. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Wait,
I
how
know
that
a
work?
player that went over for, let's say, $1 million NIL. He went to Power 5. He's going to pay Power 4. He's going to play Power 4 this year. $1 million contract. He paid that agent 30%, $300,000. He's paying $300,000 of that million to that agent. and the taxes on it is 45%. So he's going to pay $450. You know how much he's getting of that $1 million NIL? $250,000.
He getting 2.
Is it worth it? And there is no regulation. These players are working with street agents. And I hate to say street agents because I'm not saying all agents that aren't certified are bad. But there are some that don't mean you any good. They're going to take that money, they're going to run, and they have no intention on how to transition you to the NFL. And if they do, they're trying to sell you to us. They're trying to say,
to make it happen.
Hey, I got this guy, but if you pay me this, he's worth this. And that middleman, they need to learn how to cut that out and go straight to the attorneys. The other thing I would say is from our NIL perspective, this is why HBCU players need to pay attention. When we contact you and say that we have an opportunity with a collective to get behind you, what we do in that window before you go into your next year of school, we have a collective that actually funds training for you already at a top-notch facility. So when you ignore that DM or you blow an agent off, just know that $10,000, $15,000 worth of training that you could have during the summer in your window of time, with your coaches, we got to respect the coach. If they would allow you to do so, you would have exposure in a different way to prepare you for the next season. But hey, that's what we do for our HBCU players. That's the only our collective only gets behind HBCU players.
I'm gonna call you offline on that, Lady Liberty, as well.
All right.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good to me. I'm gonna call you offline on that. And then lastly, again, thank you for coming on. I know you're busy. I know this is the time of the year where you're monitoring Rob. I'm sure knowing him and knowing the type of kid he is, I know he's probably called you like he's your child, asking questions, what to do. This, that, and the third. And I appreciate you from afar for taking care of him, because with him, there's going to be others behind that. And again, I just say thank you for that. And much continued success. Like I said, I'll hit you up offline about the collective training part. And it's not what you think. I think I can still get out there and get a 4.7, but we'll talk about it later. But again, Mr. Campbell, are you located in Georgia right now?
Yep, I'm in Atlanta.
Okay, so Lady Liberty, I just need you to hang around real quick so we get to the bottom of this.
Okay.
Were you in Georgia on Monday, Mr. Campbell?
I've been in Georgia. I have not left on business for a while. So yes, I was here Monday.
What were you doing about 9 a.m. Monday morning?
Probably working, doing something.
So you had nothing to do with that lawsuit versus the NFL on behalf of Shedeur Sanders?
Hey, listen, it's funny. We were going to talk about that on our show. It's funny that you said that, right?
That wasn't you that did that.
Hey, listen. I'm going to tell you something.
Me and Lady Liberty want to know. Was that you?
Listen, I've identified, Lady Liberty, you don't know I have multiple jobs, and one of them is I'm a detective. And we had to find out, we know who the John Doe is. We're actually going to reveal that next Tuesday, who that John Doe is. Because, and I heard you guys talk about this and stuff. It amazes me how I said that some people are more invested in certain people than they are in their own families. And it gets to a level of ridiculousness. You know what I mean? We want people that have come around us and be sweet. But then there's a level of, let's not be stupid about it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm going to say this, and just to back up what she said, and this, I always tell people this as a person that's hired a lot of people and things like this. There's two touch points when you get a job, right? So the first thing, the people see your resume. Okay. So when you see your resume, so let's talk about football. The resume is on your field. I'm looking at your tape. Hey, he looks like he could be a player. But the second part is that interview. The resume gets you in the door.
That's right.
But the interview is the part that seals the deal. So if you come in the interview and you come late, you come not prepared, you come uninterested, or you say, I really don't want to work here, probably not going to hire you. And that ain't no conspiracy. Okay? So I have to let people know this from a practical standpoint. So yes, your resume, everybody has a great resume. So that's why I have to break it down. You're in school, you graduated, you got all that. But if you come to that, and like I said, you're not suited and booted and not ready and prepared, you're not going to get that job.
No.
So again, before I let you go, I know I keep coming up with different questions, Lady Liberty. But what does Liberty Athletic Agency, what do you guys do in particular for that? Because with me, with with every athlete at Alcorn State, I try to get them into a situation of where that microphone's in their face, so they feel comfortable talking. So by the time we get to said interview that Mr. Campbell's talking about, we know how to talk. We know how to come dressed. They tease me every game. I'm suited. Coach, where you going? I'm just trying to show you how it's done. You know what I mean? But because we got to have that representation in my mind. Now, I don't care what any other coach does, but in my mind, they see good old Coach Fred every Saturday in a suit looking like business. Now they know how to look like business. I've showed several of them how to tie ties, stuff like that. But what do you do, Lady Liberty, within your agency for that specific point?
Yeah, we have a PR partner in our agency. And our PR partner is Christina Canoe Consulting. You got to bring Christina on here because she's got some interesting things. She's the one that connects the dots with Sirius Radio, NFL Network. Like we made ESPN, Sports Illustrated. Basically, she helps us build the brand strategy for our players. Okay. But media training is a part of that. And our players have 8 weeks of media training. Just like they're going.
So when did that start for Rob? I'm just using him because we know him. So when did Rob start that?
My Rob. Woo! Rob is a hard one. He was a hard one. But with Rob, we had to teach him to not look down, to use his, face, to actually see his eyes more, because he'll look down. You can tell he gets a little nervous sometimes. You can see the shoulders moving, or you can hear something tapping. So we finally stopped the tapping. And he still sometimes gives you a little in there, but we practice catching those things, right? There's another There's another There's a tap. What was that tap? Are you shaking your leg? Why are we shaking our leg? And teaching, once we've seen him repeat and be comfortable in the space, then we knew, okay, he just needs it's just like muscle memory. Once he knows what he's going to say, he's not nervous about it anymore. And even with our player, even with the media, they'll ask me, like, tell me something that's going to open them up a little more. I'm like, ask them about that dog. Ask them about cash. If you ask them about cash, or you talk football, like football specifics, hitting specifically, or if you talk about fishing, you're going to get a person that lights up. And so they would always use that as an entry point to get him to light up and then bring him into the conversation. So we learned the strategies, but he went through 8 weeks of training.
Man, that is big for me, because I know a lot of times, and I don't know how many times y'all have watched interviews after games, I cringe when they catch those kids and they, boom, tell us about this. And then it just like, it goes completely left, like, oh, where's the person saying, that kind of deal. So to hear you and then Mr. Campbell bring that up, and then to hear you say that, that is so big and huge for me. And again, tip of the hat, Christian, I met her with you. Definitely got to get her on and talk about it and kind of go from there. But if Mr. Campbell don't have it, I ain't no doubt. I've seen him. I watch her story from time to time. And she about that business, ain't no doubt. Or as they say, she about that action box. So I know how that is. But if Mr. Campbell, if you have nothing else for Lady Liberty, man, I just say thank you very much. This is your second time coming on with us, so to speak. First time with me by myself, even though Zach's in the background. Again, when Rob makes this, when Herb makes this, we got to have you back on and talk about this process and kind of go from there. And, of course, we're into the season before you know it. Got to be on campus for one game, and we know why. We'll keep that between me and you. And then we'll kind of go from there.
I will be on campus for all games if Alcorn properly recruited my son. Did I say that out loud?
Well, your son needs to come. Well, okay. I'm gonna end it like.
Are you about to say FAMU?
You absolutely.
He's been invited to FAMU to 3 different coaches, so he's gonna come down there.
Well, there you go. See, so you see that we brag different for a reason.
Mr. Campbell.
Listen, you heard what she said. Just trying to tell you.
I just like the way you skipped over that lawsuit.
Sometimes it makes sense to recruit kids for certain things, that benefits that the school can have.
There you go.
Hey, again, like I said, we're gonna run it back. Everything's gonna be Gucci. The fact that Mr. Campbell sped over the fact about that lawsuit should tell us
Oh
all
no, listen.
something
Hey, listen,
about that.
I told you, listen,
Lady
if
Liberty,
there are people that invested
thank you.
that want to waste
Thank you,
their
Lady
money
Liberty.
for a lawyer, hey, listen.
My son will be down at FAM to visit for camp.
We'll make sure
Lady
we take
Liberty.
good care of
My son is going to a HBCU, but I will tell you this: the others,
Say less.
they all over them. But
Say less.
I want my son in the HBCU. You know how
Say
to do.
less.
Well, I'll say this. There's no other HBCU who can say this. The number one public HBCU. You know what?
I just started something.
Top two and we ain't two.
Oh Lord.
See, there's a difference. See, nobody else in the SWAT can say that. See, that's the thing about it. See, nobody in the SWAT can say that they won a national championship, FAMU, won playoff games, FAMU, won a celebration bowl, FAMU, and the number one player. See, no other school can say that.
And
I'm a national championship coach.
Player that
No. You haven't won an FCS championship. We won the first one.
I won one in 2014. I won one in 2014.
No other HBCU has won the FCS championship. No other one but FAMU. We brag different for a reason.
But Lady Liberty, he's forgetting to tell you that was in 1971. Neither of us were born.
Well, listen, but you know the difference? Lady Liberty, you can understand this. When you go on these campuses, does Alabama count the ones in 1955 and 1962? Absolutely, they do. That's called tradition.
We still count. It's still
count. It's called tradition.
That's how I count. That's why I say the Packers have won the most championships, because I count the national championships and the Super Bowl.
There you go.
And they have won the most to this day.
Lady Liberty, get out of here. Go do what you're gonna do.
All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank y'all so much. And Mr. Campbell, we may need to connect because I'm doing.
I'm gonna DM you because, like I said again, there are people. Like I said, I tell people all the time, I love what you're doing. And again, I've seen it from afar. And like I said, I will definitely want to connect you because again, I'm not in that business, and I know a lot of people. So again, so just that pipeline of people just to connect, because we need people like you to represent our athletes.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. It was great talking with y'all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Now, Coach.
Back to you. Before we wrap this thing up, you still ain't told me what you was doing at 9:03 on Monday, and that's neither here nor there.
Tell you, listen. When I saw the news, I literally could not believe. And this is what, again, I find it fascinating. But you know what I love about this, and what Deion has done so well. I think what a lot of people don't. I had to step back, right? As somebody that was happy that Deion came into space, but I forget that I said there are people that have watched those kids grow up, literally on reality shows, that are tremendously.
My family playbook.
So when they were little kids, so when I see people, because it kind of was off-putting to me, you know what I mean? Because not being funny, and I'm saying this respectfully, we had a kid drafted number 1, Cam Ward.
I've been screaming that the whole time.
We should be. This is the 3rd year in a row that a black quarterback has been drafted number 1, and then when you start putting out these elements saying that all these other kids who have parents, because there are other players that have parents that play in the league that got drafted. To say, oh, well, they want to hold somebody down. I get, again, as somebody that is pro HBCU, that's pro black, I always want to make sure we're having the correct conversation. That's my thing. And that was the thing about it. And that's what I wanted people to do is when this situation, again, do I want Shadur to be successful? I want Shadur to stay at Jack State for 4 years. I wanted to see that mission happen. It didn't happen, but I've always been a fan. But with that being said, when I start researching, again, me knowing people in the business and hearing things that I can kind of validate, and everything that kind of concern me. And what I don't want our athletes to do is think that's the reason why you can't get X, because that's not how that is.
And I've been saying that from the beginning because I felt bad for Cam because he wasn't being celebrated, because his family wasn't being celebrated. His mom and dad were there in the green room. We forgot that actually happened. And if you're outside of Tennessee, you hadn't paid attention to that. And that's not fair to that kid. But that kid has done nothing but put his head down and said that he's going to work. I get it. But, I'm going to let you close on this because me and B did a draft show and I jokingly said, the collusion part of it. But I knew that wasn't it. You know what I mean? But for our space, because they came They originated their college careers at an HBCU. I think that put a lot of people personal investment in it, not understanding or understanding the detachment, or however you want to put it. But, for me, this was the same kid 4 months ago that a lot of people couldn't stand because of the flamboyancy and, just the brush off and this, that, and the other. And then this happens, and all of a sudden it's a nation united behind him and them. And I really believe that was part of the plan, right? So if I was told months ago that the green honeydew, I ate it, that broke me out. I was told I probably don't need to eat it. Guess what, Mr. Campbell? The green honeydew. So if you're being told, hey man, you turn a lot of people off with the way you took the interviews, with the way you just kind of you take it on the entertainer persona, you probably want to turn that persona down. And I have people coming at me like, Coach, why he got to change? Why you want him to sell out? That's not what I'm talking about. So from your perspective, for anybody that's in here, I'm gonna let you close it after they like and share the screen. What playing the game and understanding business means, because you're from the business world. And I think that's the part that people don't understand. Like I said, they're in my inbox like, Coach, why he need to sell out? Why can't he just be him, authentically him? Well, being him got him out of the first round. It got him out of the first 4 rounds, to be exact. Maybe we should turn it down and do something else. So from a businessman, from an HBCU knower of all, I'm going to turn it over to you and explain to them why that is not selling out. That's understanding your circumstances.
Well, I'm going to go back to the agent side. This is why you have to have a competent agent. And I'll tell you why. Because when you have an agent, and like Miss Liberty said, you have relationships with teams. So you have a guy like that. The teams are already going to tell you, hey, we like this about your guy. We like that about your guy. He should work on this before he comes to the combine or before we meet him, right? I'm already telling my guy, hey, listen, these are the things that they say are your weakness. We're going to go in there prepared. But again, if your father is your agent, how many people are actually going to, now let's be honest, how many people are going to actually piss off Dion and tell him the truth? Very few, right? Nobody's going to be honest with him and say, hey, Shedeur needs to do this, that. They're not going to do that because they don't want that. But when you have an agent, you can be that buffer. And actually, you can say, hey, let me separate you from your father and let me tell you the real. So one of the things that I tell people all the time, listen, first of all, let's be honest, Coach. If Shedeur was Cam Sanders, 6'5", 245, do you think we'd be having this argument?
No.
So let's keep it real. If he was Caleb Sanders, would we be having this issue? No. Was he Jaden Sanders? No. So you start exactly. So you have to be honest, even with just, and take all the white quarterback, just the black quarterback that's been drafted in the last 5 years, right? So now the thing about it is not so much of what you do, is how you do it and when you do it. She's talked about it. You have to interview. You didn't go when you went to the combine. You came late. You didn't do the things. You didn't interview at the East-West Shrine game. Those are things that are important. But if you have an agent, like she said, that tells you the truth, I'm going to be honest with you, because I'm telling you this now. I knew a month before that he wasn't on anybody's board as the number 1 pick. I knew this because I have a friend that worked, several friends. So again, if you have an agent, then you can do things, you can adjust. And that's the thing that I would tell people. Don't take for granted of what people that are close to you say. Sometimes it's always good to get outside counsel. And you know how they say get a second opinion? That's the reason why. Right? So that's the thing about it. So no, it's not about him selling out or about anything doing that, but it's also about being honest where you're at in life. Because again, and I think, see, nobody has this argument. If I said he was Cam Sanders, he could do all of that and NFL wouldn't care. Wouldn't care because his morality background is perfect. He's not smoking dope, drinking, smacking women and all that. But this comes down to, like they said, do I want a guy that I might not think is going to be a starter and then I bring them in, and then I bring this in. This how this works. This is how this works. And that's why you, again, I think, and not being funny, and here's what told off. What did Shiloh say? I had to fire my dad to go hire an agent. So that kind of tells you it's not us saying this. It's reality. So that's the thing about it. So what I would tell anybody is, no, it's not about you not being your authentic self, but it's also understand the space that you're walking in. Always understand. And I'll tell anybody this bottom line again. If remember, the NFL is a job, period. You work for somebody. And when you go and work for somebody, there are certain things that you need to make sure that you understand the protocol. And it was no different than things about them talking about the installs and things like that. You got to know that because they're doing it for everybody. They ain't just doing that for you. This is their protocol. We're going to install off and we need you to find out what's wrong. You got to be prepared. That an agent prepares you for that. So that's why I say, I think, for a lot of people, I get, I've seen this in the space, but see, to me, that's just being lazy and not being honest.
And I'm the bad guy. But as we close, man, anybody got anything for Mr. Campbell or myself before we close it out? Because, again, Mr. Campbell, man, we've had some pretty good weeks here on the CM podcast with my guy producing in the background, keeping me straight, where we try to talk about the relevancy of just being in the moment, understanding, and if we got anything, B, let me know before we close it out.
We got one thing.
I let Mr. Campbell. What's that?
We got one thing. We need Mr. Campbell's thoughts on old CJ Montez coming in at quarterback for FAMU, man. Former FCS All-American.
Listen. Coach, the funny thing about it is, and I tease my Jackson State people and stuff like that. They had us for dead, Coach. And as people know, if you're going to win the SWAC, it's all at that quarterback position. So to have a Walter Payton finalist come in, hey, man, I'm super excited. So, I think I got to give Coach Cozy a lot of credit to recruit that young man. I think he's going to be ready to go.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about this, and I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm not trying to be messy, but when this happened months ago, you were the first person that came to mind. What are your thoughts, short and sweet, what are your thoughts with Coach Cozy in his off time?
Well, here's the thing. I think it was two parts of this. Coach Cozy has been doing it for years, right? He's been doing this for years. That
was my thought.
He's been doing it for
exact thought.
I didn't have a problem. But I think what Coach Cozy and our AD, and I think this is where it kind of got mixed up. Coach Cozy told our AD, hey, this is what I want to do. They had a common ground and said, you know what? I think this is the date you can stop. And they came together, and that's it. But a lot of people wanted to run with, say he wasn't focused, he was trying to hide it, and think that wasn't true. So, but I like the fact he's not umpiring right now. He's 100% focused on the football season. He was doing that. And again, Coach, you know this. Everybody, listen, you might golf, you might hunt, you know what I'm saying? You might shoot basketball and things like that. So I don't have a problem with anybody doing anything to be relaxing and that they enjoy it. But I also understood, and I think Coach Cozy understood just the optics of it. And he wanted to make sure that everybody knew that he was focused. And that's why he's not umpiring, now during the summer.
I smoke cigars, Mr. Campbell, but my whole thing was, like you said, because he's so close to being able to get the World Series. So this didn't just start, right? This didn't just start. And me and our interim AD, who's no longer our interim AD, we had a conversation because there were some folks that were a little upset with the podcast that I was doing 7 o'clock at night or whatever. As he said to me, at some point in time, people got to understand that y'all clock out from here and you have your own life.
Right.
So my thing to Coach Cozy was, if you've got it done and you use your PTO or whatever they required you to do, have at it. It's not like he was leaving practice. And I just, again, I think the space just got overblown. And I was like, I want to know what Mr. Campbell.
Well, yeah, but it's perception, Coach, and you know how it goes. And I think Coach Cozy understood it, and I think Eddie Suggs understood it. Is that, again, when you're striving to be a champion, right? Everybody wants you to see it done a certain way. That doesn't mean that's the right way. These people want to see it. And I think what Coach Cozy did best was that he allowed himself to not be utilized and played in a situation, he let everybody know, hey, I'm umpiring up until this date. Because again, we hadn't even started practice, I think, when the last time he had umpired.
Yeah.
And then he didn't do it anymore afterward. So what do you want him to do? I mean, it's on the weekend. He's not, you know what I'm saying? He's got a life.
Yeah.
He's able to do that. So no, I think that again, I think that was a much to do about nothing. But people like that. Well, now I'll be honest with you. Now, if he was out there and we in the summer practice, he's still
that's different.
That's different.
That's different.
He said, hey, I'm gonna be late for practice, but of course that's not what happened. So no, I think that him and I like him where him and AD Suggs really handled that, in a professional manner.
And I'll close with this, and then I'll let you have the floor to close out, and then we'll get out of here. But something's got to be done. But y'all up there in Tallahassee, the minute the game was announced that we were coming, and we were playing y'all, let's say at 12 o'clock, there was some talk about it possibly moving to Mobile, right, for the Classic. And then at 12:10, it was like, nope, it's going to be homecoming. So at 12:15, I go to book team stay, and rooms are already $350 a night. That is price gouging. I need y'all to do something about that. And I'm going to talk to Dr. McQuillan about this as well, because that's not right. That's not right.
No, listen. I told you that there was no way that we won't play Alcorn since 1981 or whatever, and you thought we were gonna play in Mobile. I told you that. I wanted Blue to send me the link. I told you that we were not going to. This is Alcorn, man. Y'all got to come. This is too much of a big game, and it's homecoming. So again, but to your point, this is the thing that I just think that the commissioner at the commissioner's level with the schedule, right? I think that really needs to come with the SWAC says, listen, we know where we're going, right? And there's some kind of overall, well, we partner with a Holiday Inn or a Hilton or a Hyatt in all those cities where we're coming and saying we just need to have these rooms blocked off at this rate because we're going to pay the money. And I just think that we do it in that type of level and then working with maybe it's a sponsorship where, where we that spend the most money anyway stay and say, you know what, our team, Alcorn is staying there and FAMU is staying at the Hilton all over and stuff like that. And market it to the SWAC, and then you get a discount code and use the whole year. They're going to make their money.
I'm kind of in talks with them, and I'll leave it at that because I know we got some people from up the street, and they be trying to take my ideas and stuff like that. But I'm kind of in talks with some stuff like that. But once I get to the commissioner, my thing to him is going to be, if we're going to release the schedule on the 5th, kind of let us know on the 3rd before we release it.
That's the thing. That coach, that's the thing. And that's what was most upsetting is that, again, you all should know and have everything planned and booked before anybody even knows about
the release. Before the release.
Because that just makes sense. Because in Tallahassee, you got to say something, Coach. I knew it, and I literally booked every home game. I didn't know which one was going to be home game. I'm going to all of them. But I just had to book it because I knew if I didn't book it then, it was going to be just like you said.
Jump, Judy.
So again, Coach, what I think you should do is, hey man, let's get together and say, hey man, let's find, because one thing about the great coach, we got an alum somewhere in one of these hotels as a vice president of that, and bring that to them. Because again, I think that's something that they can make money and say, hey, be the SWAC hotel partner for all the schools, because there is some Hyatt, Holiday Inn, whatever, IHG property, IGH property in all these metro areas. Be our partner for our football teams, and then market it back to the people, to the alumni.
Yes, I'm with you, and like I said, we can talk offline, and you can tell me if I'm off with what I'm talking about, and kind of go from there. But so I can let the super producer go on to sleep, man. How can people find you?
Hey,
how can people find you, man?
You can find me every Tuesday night, HBCU Coaches Corner, where we get to interview coaches like Coach Fred and head coaches and stuff like that, man. I'm on Twitter as iWeave CEO. Again, that's my business that I do. But again, man, I just appreciate you guys, always moving the culture forward. Thank Blue for what he's doing on the FCS level. And man, like I say, anytime you need me, man, I'm always here. Always telling the truth.
And again, I appreciate you for coming on. If by some chance the NFL wants to settle out of court with you with the Shador lawsuit that you put in place Monday at 9:03, and they give you a little bit, shoot your boy a little bit, man.
Hey, man, I'm gonna have my sponsorship right next to the Twin Peaks whiskey for all you boys, man. Y'all shout out to Twin Peaks whiskey. You know what I'm saying?
I got it. We got it. Holler at me. We'll have a link up. We getting it in, man. We trying to take this thing. Kind of got my little Pat McAfee on today. Did the interview standing up, talking to y'all. But again, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate Lady Liberty. I hope somebody got something out of it. Like, share, all that stuff you're supposed to do. And we'll see you again, man, next Wednesday at the Drive at 5.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mike Pouncey, former center for the Miami Dolphins. This is my brother Marquise Pouncey, former center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's up, everyone? This is our new cigar line. It's called Twin P. It also matches well with our bourbon whiskey. It's called Twin P as well. So if you like to smoke cigars and like to drink whiskey, I advise you get both.